What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Doctor Who classic review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 4th Doctor Tom Baker story, City of Death. So this was an interesting one. It's another one that I have seen in the past before, but I couldn't really remember anything of this. It was at least 5 years ago since I watched this, and I have only seen it once prior to watching it for this review, now that I've got the DVD, so I really couldn't remember anything at all about this story. So it was basically like going into this, I basically went into this as if I'd never seen the story before, because that's pretty much what it was like for me. So yeah, this is The City of Death, or just City of Death, by David Agnew. Whilst on holiday in Paris, the Doctor and Romana discover that something is amiss with time. Who is conducting the secret time experiments, and what connects them to the Mona Lisa? The answers lead them to discover a secret that has been hidden for 400 million years. A very, very brief synopsis on the back of the DVD there. It's literally only 3 lines long. Probably the shortest one I've ever seen on the back of a DVD. But yeah, it gets you captivated, I suppose. And yeah, I was interested to see what I'd come across here, because City of Death is probably the story that people talk about the most from the later Tom Baker years. You know, I'd say from season 16 to 18, this one is in season 17. I think this is the story that people seem to gravitate towards the most. The only other one probably would be Keeper of Traken, but I still think that this seems to be more talked about and more highly regarded than Keeper of Traken. So yeah, this is kind of, I suppose, what most people consider the golden story of the later Tom Baker stuff, where, stuff did, I believe, and we will soon probably see when I get to them, things did go downhill a lot from this point. So yeah, City of Death, I was interested to see what would happen here, but anyway, let's start off with the cast. So Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor is of course great in this. When is Tom Baker not great? He has his moments where he's not amazing in season 18, but he's still very, very good here. I think he has a lot of comedic moments, a lot of funny moments in this story. He has a few serious moments as well, but to be honest, on the whole, really, Tom Baker, as the Doctor, he's a bit more funny in this one, especially in the first couple of parts. I do think that it perhaps goes a little bit too far. Pretty much all his jokes and funny moments are funny to me, but I just feel like, I feel like it was a bit overdone, especially in part 1. Almost everything he said led to something of a joke, and it just got a bit old after a while. I thought, can we have some more serious stuff here? Because literally everything he says has a little bit of a funny note on the end of it, and I just think, I feel like we're kind of pushing this a bit too much. But apart from that, Tom Baker, he gives a great performance no matter what. So yeah, very, very happy there. Lalla Ward as Romana, interesting one here, because this is actually the first Romana story that I've reviewed so far. I believe this is her second story, is it? I know Destiny of the Daleks was her first, well, Romana 2's first anyway. I believe this is the second of season 17. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I believe it's either the second or the third. But yeah, Romana, she's pretty good. She's something a bit different, of course, Romana is also a Time Lord, or I suppose a Time Lady. But whether you call them a Time Lord or a Time Lady nowadays, with Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, I don't even know. But yeah, I think she's good. The connection, the dynamic between her and the Doctor, I think is very, very different to any other companion, and that is very, very good, of course. And I think her as the companion kind of is good and bad, because it's good because of that different chemistry that they have with each other, but it's also bad in the aspect that one of the main reasons for a companion is so that the human audience, us as the audience, the human audience, that sounded really strange, we can connect to the companion like we can't really connect to the Doctor. And because Romana is basically just the Doctor in a lot of ways, she's really smart, she's obviously not human, and just the way she says things and acts, we can't really connect to her the same way that we can with other companions. So that is a downside, but as a character and definitely acting wise, Romana is very, very good. Also, the whole guest cast is very good. We have some pretty big names in here. Julian Glover, I'm pretty sure he's a fairly big name, isn't he? And a lot of other people in there. I think that, I think that the whole guest cast does a great job as well. But anyway, let's get on to the good and the bad. Alright, starting off with the good, the Doctor saying, "What a wonderful butler, he's so violent." I just think that's a really funny scene. I just love the way that Tom Baker says that line. I'm not going to try and, say it myself, what's the word? oh god, imitate it, I suppose? That's not really the word I was going for, but I'm not going to try and do it myself, but just the way he says, what a wonderful butler, he's so violent, I think it's just funny, because, you know, he like trips him over or whatever when he first is introduced to Tancredi, who's also called Count, and then is also revealed to be Scaroth, who is the alien of the story. Yeah, I think that's just pretty interesting, and just not interesting, it's just, I just think he delivers that line well and it's funny. Tancredi / Count / Scaroth having 6 genuine Mona Lisas I think is pretty cool. So the main premise of this story is that Scaroth, I'm just going to call him Scaroth from now on because that's just the easiest way of saying who he is. He steals the Mona Lisa to supposedly sell it. However, it turns out that he's actually, he goes back in time, he's getting multiple versions of the Mona Lisa and selling them on, and he's actually trying to figure out a way to go way back in time and stop his people, his race, from blowing themselves up in a ship on Earth billions and billions of years ago. And yeah, so he ends up getting all these Mona Lisas to sell on or whatever he's doing. I think that's just really cool, you know. I think bringing the Mona Lisa into this is very different. We see historical figures like Shakespeare and, you know, Charles Dickens and, I mean, you know, all these different people. We see all them, you know, historical figures in Doctor Who quite often. But to see kind of an actual historical thing, you know, the Mona Lisa, in this, it's very different, it's very unique. And yeah, I think it's quite interesting. The Doctor going to Leonardo da Vinci's house, I thought was pretty cool. Of course, Leonardo da Vinci was the one who painted the Mona Lisa, so he went back there to try and find out what was going on here. You know, after he found all these bloody 6 Mona Lisas that were all supposedly genuine. I thought that was pretty cool. A little bit sad that we didn't actually see Leonardo da Vinci, but I think the whole thing that ended up happening with him and Scaroth, you know, the little exchange they had, was very, very good. And, you know, him trying to find out, you know, Scaroth trying to find out how the Doctor travels in time, I thought was interesting because, you know, we end up figuring out that he wants to be able to travel back in time. So yeah, I just think that's a really good scene there. Would have been better if we had Leonardo da Vinci there, I think, but yeah, still a good scene. Romana thinking and acting like the Doctor, like I briefly said before, Romana is basically a female version of this Doctor. I was going to say of the Doctor, but the Doctor's now female, so it's confusing. Yeah, I mean, I think, Romana's good. I can't really say any more. I've basically said it when I was talking about the cast, but yeah, it's just, you know, she has moments where she is very Doctor-like. I mean, yeah, we find out towards the end she ends up kind of helping out Scaroth, but not intentionally. You know, she doesn't really realize what's going on, what the whole picture is. And you know, that's something that the Doctor would have picked up on earlier, but you know, you've got to have that sort of thing in a companion. But I think altogether Romana's very, very good here. Scaroth wanting to go back and save his race, like I said before, the whole premise of the story is that he wants to go back and save the rest of his race from blowing themselves up billions of years in the past. I think that's just a really cool concept, maybe a little bit overdone nowadays, but yeah, I think for the time it's quite interesting, and ultimately it does still, you know, it is still an interesting plot point, I think. And then finally, Scaroth's ship exploding. Well, not Scaroth's ship, his people's ship. I think are they called the Jaggeroth or something like that? I'm not 100% sure. Their ship exploding makes life on Earth start. Now, I thought that was a really good twist, because otherwise I was just kind of like, who really cares? I mean, we do find out that this race of the Jaggeroth, or whatever they're called, the Doctor says that they are a very menacing and evil race. We don't really get to see that too much throughout the story, to be honest. I really don't think, because we only have one of these creatures, he doesn't really do anything too crazy. I mean, yeah, well, I mean, he does kill his scientist pretty brutally by making him, like, age to death super quick and turning him into a skeleton, but that's about as much as he does. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's just interesting. But then the fact that if this ship doesn't blow up, then life on Earth will never have started. You know, it turns out that the ship exploding, the radioactive waves or whatever, the radiation, ends up getting mixed in with water or some weird goo in the earth, and then that ends up creating life on Earth and starts life on Earth. Life on Earth. I said life really weirdly then. Yeah, I think that was just a really nice twist to add in. Just made the story a bit more interesting. So I do have a couple of bad things to say. The first thing is that Scaroth and just the Jaggeroth people in general, I'm probably butchering that name. I cannot remember what the alien race is called. It's something like that anyway. They don't look great. They really don't. It's just like he pulls off his face basically, kind of like a Slitheen, but instead of a zip, he just rips off his face. And there's this horrible kind of seaweed looking monster underneath, and I think for the time it wouldn't look too bad, and to be honest, on the whole it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't look terrible nowadays. I think it's mainly the eye. You have one eye that doesn't blink, and I think when you have a creature like this and when you have eyes that don't blink, it was the case a lot with you know, the master in the Deadly Assassin, I believe, you know, the decaying master. When you have eyes, bulging bulbous eyes that don't blink, it just looks a bit crap, and that's not great. And then the other thing is, this story just in general, there's just something about it that just didn't quite engage with me. I don't know what it was, but this story just wasn't that engaging for me personally. I went into this thinking, oh, this could be, maybe it was overhype or something, but I went into this expecting, oh no, it's probably going to be one of the better stories. I wasn't quite up there with, you know, Genesis and stuff, but I thought, yeah, people seem to fairly highly regard this story. And there was something about this story, but I can't quite pinpoint it, because the pacing, I think the pacing was okay. It wasn't the best pacing, but I think it was okay. And I mean, there wasn't a lot of action, but there was a bit in there. It wasn't too bad. There's just something, and I don't know what it was. There's just something about the story that didn't quite engage me, and I can't quite put my finger on it. So yeah, The City of Death. It was a good story. It was a good story. I don't think it's quite as good as I was expecting it to be, and maybe not as good as a lot of people regard it. But I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I've seen most people give it 8s and 9s out of 10. Some people probably even give it 10s. I don't think it's regarded as quite a classic as some others, but it is fairly up there. But yeah, 7.5 out of 10 is what I'm going to give it. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything fantastic in my opinion. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.